All right, so the next shape that we're going to look at is actually a rhombus. So for a rhombus, it is a parallelogram with 4 equal sides, or 4 congruent sides. So that's a symbol for congruent there. So basically what that means is we don't really care as much about the angles for the rhombus. We just care that the sides are all the same and that they're also parallel. So a couple of properties here that we can identify based off of this. A parallelogram is a rhombus if its diagonals are perpendicular or intersect at a 90-degree angle. So that's one way that we can prove it. A second way that we can prove it, that a parallelogram its diagonals if each diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles. So that basically means the diagonal is cutting the opposite pair of angles exactly in half. So both sides of the angle that it crosses are equal. And then finally, for our last one, a parallelogram is a rhombus if it has 4 equal sides, or congruent sides. So let's take a look at what this would look like on an actual shape. The idea here, I should make that line a little bit better. The idea here is that this side, this side, this side, and this side, all of those are equal. Secondly, we intersect at a 90-degree angle. So again, that would be a nice 90-degree angle there, and there, and there, and there. So all 4 of those would be 90-degree angles. So we check this box, and then the last one is that it's going to bisect the opposite angles. So that means that this angle is equal to this angle. This angle is equal to this angle, and additionally that angle is equal to that angle. That angle is equal to that angle. So it's basically cutting it in half. Each of the parts on the opposite side are exactly equal to each other there. All right, so when you're going through example questions like this, they might, give you one side length. So like if this is 4, for example, then that is 4, that is 4, that is 4. They might also ask you what the angle in the center is. You know that has to be 90 degrees. And additionally, we know that we have some bisecting angles. So that means that like if they give you this angle measure, you know that that also is the same thing as the angle measure right there as well. So a few different things that you can do based off of the properties. The last shape that we're going to cover are squares. And a square is a parallelogram with both 4 congruent sides and 4 90-degree angles. So actually, in this case, based off of those properties, a square is a rhombus, and a square is also a rectangle. It's just a special example of both a rhombus and a rectangle. So what that means here is that, yep, we have 90s here, we have 90s, we have 90s. This side is equal to this side is equal to this side is equal to this side. But there are more properties that we can use from what we've already solved. That's a 90, that's a 90, that's a 90, that's a 90. That section equals that section equals that section, that section equals that section, in terms of like that is 45 degrees, that is 45 degrees, because it bisects it, it splits it. So that's kind of the idea, is we can take all of the properties we've already used and basically apply them to the square. So a similar idea as before, and let's go through maybe one example of a square. So a question that might ask you would be square ABCD, and we might be given that D to B to C, this angle right here, equals 5x minus 5. And they want us to find x. Well, we have to remember that this diagonal bisects this angle, which is 90 degrees. So this whole angle here, from this edge to this edge, is 90 degrees. We also know that because it bisects it, 5x plus 5 is equal to that section right there. So 2 of 5x minus 5 angles, basically because they're the same thing, equal that 90-degree measure. So a couple of options there, but the big idea for this is that 5x minus 5 equals half of that angle. 5x minus 5 equals 45 degrees. So using those properties, we know that it's a 90-degree angle. We know that it's bisected, which ultimately means that the piece that we have here is worth 45. So we can add 5 to both sides. We have 50 equals 5x, divide both sides by 5, and we'll get x equals 10. So that is a fair game square question. Again, applying multiple properties that we have to solving. All right, everybody, as always, questions, feel free to reach out.